to Lit News Pro. So today I am particularly dealing with a poem, and the poem name is Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Okay, so this is part of JUUG first semester syllabus. Okay, so I have already dealt with other poems which are present in first semester syllabus, like Lamp, Tiger, Chimney Sweeper, written by William Blake. So these are being covered by me already. So welcome back to Let's Know Pro. So those who are new to the channel, subscribe the channel and press the bell icon to get notification on time. Okay, so this is a poem which I have already introduced you with. The title says The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Okay, so like you must be interested now knowing that why the title is The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Okay, so when you would read the line by line, like this poem is quite lengthy, it has 7 parts. Okay, those who have already read William Blake with me, for them it may feel little tough because William Blake wrote poem like in a very short length. Okay, but this poem written by Coleridge has a length which is divided into parts, 7 parts, and line by line if you count is quite lengthy. But the point is like that Coleridge was someone you already have introduction with him. If you do not have, don't be at it. Okay, I'll introduce you with this author named as Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So who is this Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who had written this poem named as The Rime of the Ancient Mariner? So Samuel Taylor is someone who is the precursor of Romanticism, okay, along with William Wordsworth. So I always tell my students, when you would listen my lectures, please sit down with pen and paper, write down everything on the paper, okay, and this will help you in remember, okay, that there's 2 persons who started Romanticism. One was this Samuel Taylor Coleridge and the another is William Wordsworth. Okay, so this Samuel Taylor Coleridge had written this poem titled as The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Okay, so that much is clear. Now we would come to know that when this poem came out, time is also necessary. As the author is necessary, then the time is too necessary. So the poem came out in 1798. Okay, sorry, 1798. Okay, so write down again 1798 is the time when it got published. Okay, it published in a collection named as Lyrical Ballads. Okay, it published in a collection named as Lyrical Ballads. Okay, write down. And this Lyrical Ballads is the manifesto of Romanticism. Okay, this whole collection was very important because it's being called as a manifesto of Romanticism, and in that whole collection this poem too present. Okay, this poem named as The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Okay, I hope that much clear. If that much clear, now I would say regarding the poem. Okay, so this poem I already said about the length. Now I would say little bit regarding the poem's difference. Okay, in style, in tone, in different way. Okay, so this Lyrical Ballads has so many poems. Okay, present. Okay, which I am telling you now. So because this Lyrical Ballads had been written by 2 people. One was William Wordsworth, another was Coleridge. Okay, so Lyrical Ballads has so many poems. So like maximum written by William Wordsworth and few were written by Coleridge, and one of these few poems was the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Okay, so like while Wordsworth was writing regarding that romanticism, how to include layman's words in poetry, how to introduce nature in poetry, how to speak about certain things which can give hint that now we will speak from our heart rather than from the reason logic. Okay, so this was whole concentration of William Wordsworth. But when this came to Coleridge, the poems Coleridge written in that volume, this were not like this. Coleridge tried to include different kind of romanticism, dark romanticism. What is this? His poems included a theme named as supernatural. Okay. He had coined a term named as suspension of disbelief. His poems had certain things which can give you the hint of supernaturalism, and here you have to suspend your disbelief, not to believe it. Okay, so I have introduced you with very important term in literature and literary criticism. It's like suspension of disbelief. What is this? Suspension of disbelief is that you know something is false. Okay, when you are reading a horror story, you are watching a horror movie, you know it's a fiction, but you are still trying to believe it. Because why? Because you have to get the entertainment out of it, you have to get the pleasure out of it, so you are trying to believe on it. So this is what it does, that for a moment when you would be reading a poem like this Ancient Mariner or other poems written by Coleridge where he had included supernatural thing, you have to suspend your disbelief and you have to believe for the sake of pleasure. So I hope you understood what this suspension of disbelief. Okay, so now we'll go to the line by line discussion of the poem. One of the most interesting, one of the most beautiful poem. Okay, so before that I will say that I'm someone who has started own UG paid course. So if you want to join, you can join. So many have already joined. So this course detail you'll get in my channel. If you have problem in finding, you may just write it in the comment section. I'll give you the details. You can even WhatsApp me in the number which would be present in the description box. Okay, so in my UG paid course I do give video lectures, notes. I do teach how to make notes, how to understand poem, text by text analysis, everything we do. And a little bit introduction of me. I am Shomita Shah, UGC NET WB set get qualified and teaching UG students. Okay, so this is, now we'll go to the poem. So you can see clearly, I hope you can see clearly that that poem starts with a section. Okay, let me zoom it for your sake. It's known as argument. Okay, what this argument is trying to say. Okay, let me read it. Okay, listen carefully. So it said, how a sheep having passed the line. Okay, a sheep having passed the line was driven by storms. It was driven by storms to the cold country towards the South Pole. Where it was driven towards the South Pole. How from thence she made her course to the tropical latitude of the great Pacific Ocean, and of the strange things that befell, and what manner the ancient mariner came back to his own country. Okay, so in that argument, just before the actual initiation or the beginning of the poem, you come to know what the poem is about. Okay, you come to know the story of the poem. What you come to know? You come to know that in that poem a sheep is there which was driven by storm, went to the South Pole, then went to the great Pacific Ocean, and then how the mariner struggled and ultimately returned to his country. You came to know the whole story of the poem. Now you understood. Now you think that there's, you said there's supernaturalism present, there's suspense present, then why the story is being told already in just before the beginning, even why the argument section is telling the whole story? Then I will say you one thing, that Coleridge had whole intention not to make you feel suspense regarding what the story is about, but the suspense regarding how the character makes changes of his mind, how he, when in the beginning started through a very different secular mind or a very distant mind from nature, ultimately surrendered to nature, ultimately started loving the benevolence of spiritualism, and how the change began, how he psychologically and morally changed. Okay, like his change is more important than the story. So this is how you come to know the story's outline, poem story's outline, even before the beginning of the poem. Okay, so that much if it's clear argument section, then we'll go to the part 1 section. Okay, if till now anybody has any sort of doubt, you can write it in the comment section. Okay, I'll give you the answer. Okay, like in my classes there's 2 days in a week where live classes are even provided to UG students, where they can ask me regarding their doubts, for which I give them specific time and definitely have freedom to ask whatever their doubt is. They can ask that many times they want. Okay, so the part 1 first line says, it is an ancient mariner. You came to know there's a mariner. Mariner, you all know, Navik mean the someone who is like running a ship. Okay, like this is something which I do not require to introduce. It is an ancient mariner. The mariner introduced as an ancient. Okay, it's giving you a hint of this supernatural old kind of a story. Like, and he stop it 1 of 3. So this mariner stop it mean like he stopped. It's an old version. Okay, like the word stop it. So he stopped 1 of 3. Whom he stopped? Okay, let me zoom. You can see clearly. So he stopped it 1 of 3 by the long grey beard and glittering eye. So now you think, who had this long grey beard and glittering eye? Okay, it's not this 1 of 3. It's the mariner. That mariner had long grey beard and a glittering eye. Okay, so now whereof stopped thou me? So this questions, whereof stopped thou me, is being said by this 1 of the 3 whom he stopped. Okay, so let me now say you whom he has stopped. Okay, in this line you hadn't found. So it's like this ancient mariner, you have been given the lines. Okay, the beginning is not the actual beginning of the story. Okay, but it started in a middle. Okay, so I will say you the story is like the mariner stopped. Okay, 3 wedding goer, 3 people were going to attend marriage. Okay, so he stopped one among these 3. He stopped this person, and how he stopped by his beard look. Okay, his look was different from like this mariner look was different, as you have seen, gray beard, glittering eye. It's Samuel Taylor Coleridge is trying to give you a hint of supernaturalism in that section, even a hint of like something like that mariner has a very much hypnotizing kind of aura around him. Okay, this is kind of, then he stopped this 1 of the 3 wedding goer. Okay, and the wedding goer asked, now wherefore stops thou me? Like, why did you stop me? Okay, like he was supposed to go wedding, so he should be having that question, that why you had stopped me. Okay, then the bridegroom's doors are opened wide. I am next of kin, the guests are meet, the feast is set, may I hear the melody. So this next 4 lines, okay, this next 4 lines are being told by who? First 3 lines told by the mariner. He stopped that wedding goer, and the last line was told by the wedding goer, that why did you stop me? In the next stanza, in the next stanza, 4 lines are told by this wedding goer. Wedding goer is saying what? The bridegroom doors are opened wide, like the marriage ceremony is opened to welcome the guest. Okay, I am next of kin. I am one of relative of theirs. The guests are made. The feast is set. Their foods are being prepared. So, where this first stanza, there we found the resonating voice of the mariner, and in that only exception to the last line, where we found the voice of the wedding girl, there in the second stanza, we found only the voice of the wedding girl. Okay, where the wedding girl said that, "Why did you stop me? The feast are going to be done. Their wedding are supposed to be done. Bride and groom are ready. Everything." So this is what we found in the second stanza. Okay, so now we'll start the third stanza. Third stanza says, "He holds him with his skinny hand." Who holds? Okay, now you have question. Who holds with skinny hands? So the person who hold with his skinny hand is the mariner. Okay, mariner hold the wedding girl with his skinny hand. So you can see whenever this Samuel Taylor Coleridge, mean the author or the poet, is trying to speak something regarding mariner, but he is using the words to describe the mariners. First graveyard, glittering eye, then we found what? We found here something like skinny hand. So like you can find the difference in describing the person. There too he is trying to give an eerie feeling. Okay, eerie is related to supernaturalism. Okay, eerie word, I do feel you all know the meaning of the eerie word. It's something quite different from terror. Okay, eerie is something what you feel when watching horror thing. Okay, the sensation of this horror. So this is what he is trying to create the scene. So that mariner holds that wedding girl with a skinny hand. A hand maybe so much thin it can be. Okay, there was a ship, he quoted. So the mariner is now telling his story. Okay, so you have understood, you now saw that mariner stopped the wedding girl, and you have questioned why did he. So let me tell you the reason. Okay, he is now telling his story. That mariner is telling his story, that how he had come here and from where he had come. Okay, so he says the first line to the wedding girl that there was a ship. So there was a ship, hold off, unhand me, graveyard alone. So who said this? It is being told by that wedding girl. He says that hold off, okay, unhand me, mean leave me. Okay, unhand mean handed down, like he was holding the mariner was holding the wedding girl. So the wedding girl said, hold off, unhand me, mean leave me, do not take hold on me. So graveyard loon, he called him as a graveyard loon. Okay, it stones his hand dropped. Okay, so after hearing this, he dropped his hand. Okay, so like there's another word you found. This one, okay, like my students often say that how we can increase our vocabulary. Okay, how we can make improvement. And I said always to them, read poems. Okay, in my UG classes I give them poem with a small kind of brief summary underlying, and then at the end of the summary I give them a quick chart of word meaning, like there's vocabulary kind of a thing, like synonyms of words I do give, so that they can improve their vocabulary. So what happens then? He said that hold off unhand me, graveyard loon. Okay, so this loon word means eccentric or mad person. So the wedding girl called or addressed this mariner as a loon or a mad person and said that let me go. And as soon mean immediately. Okay, and immediately that mariner let go his hand. But what do you think, that he just let him go because he had to tell his story? Mariner had to tell his story, so he couldn't let that wedding girl go. But he let go his hand, but still he was capturing the goer. How it is? This may be triggering you. Okay, let me explain. So the next line says, he holds him with his glittering eye. Although he had let go his hands, but he was still capturing the wedding girl with his glittering eye. Glittering you can use in a kind of symbolic meaning of a hypnotizing eye. Okay, he still hypnotized the man with his eyes, although he didn't hold the man by hand. Okay, so the wedding guest stood still. He was hypnotized by the eye. Okay, although he was not held by the hand, but still he was not able to walk away. Okay, he stood still and listened like a 3 years child. He became a child, like you got hypnotized as something interesting when placed on your phone or on your TV. You got hypnotized. You watched it like the way you do not make others even create a single sound. You say, "Let me listen it." So the same thing. He got hypnotized by the eye. He would be now listening the whole. The wedding goer was held by now glittering eye. Okay, he holds him with this glittering eye. The wedding guest stood still and listened like a 3-year-old child because he was got hypnotized. So the story is now progressing like a kind of a supernatural story. You are now listening because the description would tell you. In a poem, you do not get to watch like a scene, okay, but you have to imagine it by seeing the words. Okay, so by using words like glittering eye, something like hypnotic kind of scenario has been already created. The wedding goer now become a 3-year-old child. He is listening to the story. Although earlier he couldn't listen, he wasn't interested in listening, even though the mariner was holding his hand. Now the mariner let him go, but still he is listening because he got hypnotized by the glittering eye. Okay. So now the wedding guest sat on a stone. He sat on a stone. He cannot choose, but here he is not choosing anything. He got hypnotized. His brain has stopped. He is listening. And thus spoke on that ancient man. Ancient man means the mariner, the bright eye mariner. Okay, the mariner's eyes are bright like hypnotic. So the ship was cheered, the harbor cleared, mariner did we drop, below the kirk, below the hill, below the lighthouse top. Ship was cheered, like people inside the ship was happy. Ship was cheered. Okay, here a use of rhetoric, a kind of a figure of speech. What the name of the figure of speech? Yes, you are correct. It's transfer epithet. Okay, transfer epithet were a characteristic of different characteristic of different noun or pronoun has been attributed to different another part of a grammatical section. Like here you had found the sheep was cheered. Does sheep cheered? No, the human being were cheering there. Okay, so the same thing in transfer epithet, characteristic of one grammatical element has been attributed to another. Like nouns characteristic has been given to a verb or certain things. So the people were cheerful, that's why the sheep was cheered. So the heart were cleared, like a rose were cleared, it was moving. Merrily did we drop, below the kirk, below the hill, below the lighthouse top. It was going smoothly. Once it was at the kirk, once it was at the hill, at the lighthouse top. The sun came up upon the left, sun was at its exact place. Out the sea came he, and the sea was moving nicely. He shone bright, the sun was shining bright on the right, went down into the sea, higher, every day. It was going, moving every day. Till over the mast at noon, it was moving like the mast. Wedding guest heartbeat is braced, for he had the loud vision. The wedding goer listened it carefully. The bride had passed into the hall, read us. So the wedding goer, although listening the story, his mind was still going to the wedding too. Okay, he was like his breathing his heartbeat, and he was listening the wedding, what was happening there. He was imagining maybe the bride had come to the hall, red as a rose. Is she looking so red as a rose? Okay, here use of simile. Okay, so that, so he is imagining the bride must have come red as a rose. Is she? So nodding their heads before her goose, and the merry minstrel see like the wedding was happening. The bride came out. She was looking one of the most beautiful person, and the wedding guest he beat his breast. Yet he cannot choose, but he had thus spoke on that ancient man, the bride and mariner. Although the mariner for a moment while listening the story felt again interested to the marriage ceremony, started imagining what might have been going on the marriage ceremony, but he couldn't choose to live or think even about living because he got hypnotized by the mariner. So he is forced to listen. Now the bright-eyed mariner says, now the storm blast came, and he was tyrannous and strong. He struck with his overtaking wings and chased us south along. But the mariner now made a twist in the story. Well, that's the actual twist in his mariner story. Like, although the ship was moving smoothly, sun was shining brightly, people were cheering, it was going day by day nicely. But what happened suddenly? Now the storm blast, there was storm. He was tired and strong. He stuck with his overtaking, which chased us south along sloping mast, dipping prow, who pursued with yell and blow, still a trace the shadow of his foe means enemy. Okay. Forward bends, he said. The ship drove fast. Loud roared the blast, and southward I fled like this. There was suddenly a storm came who started moving the ship out of his own wish. They were not interested in moving the ship in the direction which now was moved by the storm. Now there came both mist and snow. It grew under us cold. Then suddenly not the storm only, there came snow and mist. Like snow means you do know snow available in cold areas you have. Mist means to do in the early morning is visible, especially in winter. So like now there came both mist and snow. It grew under us cold. It's a cold, so cold it became an ice must high came floating by as green as emerald. Okay, emerald you do know, understand. Through the drifts, the snowy cliffs descended dismal sheen, and nor shapes of men nor beast weakened. The ice was all between. Okay, so the ship was taken to a place where just the ice was present. The situation was dismantled like it was in a kind of a disaster. Okay, the ice was there. The ice was all around. The cracked, rolled, howled like noise is a sound. Okay, like this was the situation. Athlete did cross an albatross through the fog. It came, and as if it had been a Christian soul, we held it in God's name. Okay, so suddenly what happens till now in the wedding goer who was listening to the story of the mariner, in the story of the mariner we found the ship was going smoothly. Well, it came across storm and it came across a cool situation. Okay, then suddenly came a albatross, which is a kind of a bird, it came through the fog, like it's a kind of a scenario is creating. It came and it had been a Christian soul. It has been imagined as a Christian soul, like a savior, and they held him as a God's name. Okay, they took it as a kind of a someone sent by the God. It ate the food it near had it, and round it flew. It ate food from there as well. It had never ate, and round it had flight, and then the ice did split with thunder fit. The helmsman stared us through. So then with the bird coming, what happened? The ice started splitting. Helmsman stared us through, and a good south wind sprung up the end, and a nice wind, because there's a difference between wind when we talk about ship. You must have read in geography, well, in school, that some kind of wind which is very good for ship, which can help ship in getting the run, getting the speed, and another kind of air is there present wind, like which can make the ship dismantle, which is making reckless, which is harmful. So here came the good south wind, which helped the ship to move smoothly. Okay, and the albatross did follow, and the bird continued to follow the ship every day for food or play. The bird was following simply because it was wanting food, and it was playfully flying around them, is enjoying this. Came to the mariner's hollow, in mist, in cloud or mist or shroud, in past for vespers night. Well, all the night through fog and smoke white glimmered the white moonshine. It's a description of the night. God save thee, ancient mariner, from the fines that plague thee thus. Why lookst thou so? With my crossbow I shoot the albatross. Then the mariner said that while the albatross was following them, everything was moving smoothly. What happens? There came like the plague thee thus, like a plague, like a disease, like a kind of a curse now fallen on them. Why? Because that mariner shot the albatross. He had killed the albatross. This is the real thing. This is the thing. This incident is the real incident which created the whole story of that ancient mariner. Okay. Like there wasn't a story if there wasn't a bird, there wasn't a change of his mind, there wasn't any development of this thing and this climax and every sort of details if there wasn't this incident. This bird which was introduced as a Christian soul who came as a like voice of a god, it was shot by the mariner and then the curse fallen on him. Okay, so in the first section only we found that mariner had killed that bird. Okay, so like so with my crossbow I shoot the albatross. You can understand that plague did us. Okay, so he killed the bird. Okay, now you can now understand it's definitely very bad thing to when we read it from ecological point of view, understand it's very bad thing. You are harming another living being like a bird. You are harming is the ecological circle and the environment itself. And from when you read it from the level of religious study, then you find that bird was Christian soul, so you have done a biggest sin. Okay, here, so from every level this is the incident which is the one which later proven to be the reason that the mariner got changed. Okay, because now the curse has fallen on him. He had killed the bird, he had destroyed the natural element or the beautiest part of nature, a creature of the nature whom God had created, a Christian soul he had killed. Now after killing, what happened? That with the last line, I shoot the albatross, this first part ended, and here we find a line that God saved the unsaved mariner, which would resonate in the later part of the section 2. Now we'll then try to understand how that mariner would be saved. Okay, or will he be saved at all, because he did a very a huge kind of a sin. So this first part I hope you all understood. I hope you all enjoyed while reading with me. So I will soon be back with the next part. Okay, I might be uploading it tomorrow, so subscribe the channel now to get notification of my upload, which would be definitely tomorrow. Okay, so if I had uploaded it the 7th section in a single day, what happened? This might have been too much tough for me to upload because it takes time to be uploaded when it's a huge lengthy video. Okay, so that's why I'm uploading it in a parts, and it's easier for students even to understand while it's in parts. So the next section is full of suspense, full of mystery, full of the psychological dilemma, full of the characters change of mind and everything you want to see in the supernatural story. So I hope you be filled with the suspense, you would be filled with the enthusiasm to read it, and which we would be reading tomorrow. So for the timing, you can subscribe if you are watching it in the YouTube. You'll follow me if you are watching it in Facebook page. Okay, and if you have any doubt, anything, and want to join with us, want to part of our classes, want to share something, you can write in the comment section. Okay, thank you for watching. Every support of yours is pushing us. Okay.